Hello, colleagues. Today I want to talk to you about my wiki discussions. So, if you ever get the great privilege of being the subject matter expert on a master course design, this is the way I think that discussions should be designed. It is student-centered learning, and it makes for a great creative and continuing education experience for you, the instructor. So let's take a look at my discussions. So in the wiki discussion, we call it collaborative study. And so here, following principles of backwards design, I present the students with the learning outcomes for the module. And then they find the places in the reading where these learning outcomes are met, and then they summarize that. So they can choose one tiny section in the textbook, that relates to these learning outcomes, and explore it in, 300 words in their discussion post. So in a way, they're writing one section of, a study outline for the class. And since students are able to choose which parts of these outcomes they write about, we end up, throughout this 2-week period, making a whole study guide for the entire reading. And then when students fail to raise concepts, I bring them into discussion, right? So I see what the gaps are, and then through my iterative process, replying to student posts, I am able to bring those learning outcomes into the discussion, but it is largely student directed. Now, I want to show you one other thing that facilitates my process here. At some point, some years ago, I decided that I was going to start recording my discussion posts. It's very ephemeral to write them in the discussion of the classroom and never write them anywhere else. Because in this way you are not curating your own work, and we recommend that students do this, so you should do it too. And so whenever I, spend more than 5 to 10 minutes working on a post for a student, I write it here in this document called My Posts. This document is currently 477 pages long, which probably sounds completely nuts, but that's how much generative writing you do as an online professor. I love this job. I was a creative writing major before I switched to environmental studies, and then I ended up, going to grad school for biology. In a way, this kind of unites all of the things that interest me. And so I have been copying my posts in here. I'm not exhaustive about it. Over the semesters you learn what the threads are, right? And you get your own soapboxes. But instead of releasing them in a 45-minute lecture like you would in a university class, you just wait for the moment when the student brings the topic up, and when the topic arises, you're able to unleash that soapbox. We all have them, we all have things that we think we need to communicate to the world. So, how do I use this document? Say a student writes about chromosomes or something in biology, right? I just write Control F, I search the document for keywords, and I find that I've written this word in this document 47 times. And then I just kind of click through it, and I look for the post that seems to fit, and over the years I've come to memorize these posts, right? Just like you would if you were lecturing in a classroom. So I know what I'm looking for. And then, when it's things that come up really often, because I do write lecture style comments based on this document. I write lecture style comments in my grading. I can also query this document by class title, and that just, that's ends up being the stuff that I always talk about in botany. But I, teach a couple of different classes, as we all do, and so I could change this Q to be Environmental 101 or GES 4410. I teach at UCCS. See, my computer does not like doing this and being on Zoom at the same time, or excuse me, the screen software I'm using is called Screencast-O-Matic. Okay, now this is Environmental 101, you see my point. And so there you have it. I use this document to fuel my participation in this student-directed wiki building discussion that I would promote in any of your classes if you're given the opportunity to design your own discussions. This is the best way for your mind to continue learning, because when students raise topics, it's not exactly what you're focused on, but it's still enriching to your mind, so it makes you a better teacher along the way. And finally, in an act of selfish promotion, I will tell you that I published a paper about Master Course Design. This basically is, I'm very excited that I got this published, because after teaching at CCCOnline for 13 years, I really do feel like I know what works in my science classes, and I wanted to communicate that to the world. And the final comment I have is, everything you do, like the work you're doing at CCCOnline, it's science and it's research. And so all of this, these nearly 500 pages of my writing, I will publish that one day. And here I've published a document about my process. So be proud in your identity as an online professor, and always maintain that academic integrity that we talk to our students about. Thank you.